My boyfriend said he needed space and left me at the airport alone. I flew to Rome without him, met an amazing stranger that night, and woke up to 17 missed calls. If you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have said my life was finally perfect. Liam and I have been together for almost 3 years. It wasn't a whirlwind romance, it was steady, it was safe, it was everything I thought I needed. We met the old-fashioned way at a coffee shop. I spilled a latte on him and instead of getting mad he smiled and said, "At least now I have an excuse to talk to you." I thought it was fate. I really did. We built this quiet, cozy life together. Movie nights, lazy Sunday brunches, spontaneous road trips that usually ended up with us getting lost and laughing about it. He'd kiss my forehead in the mornings before work, and send me memes during the day that only we would find funny. After 2 years we started daydreaming about traveling abroad. Italy was our dream destination. Romantic gondola rides, fresh pasta, little hidden towns. We spent hours planning it. He said he couldn't wait to see the world through my eyes. Looking back now, there were signs, little flickers of something shifting beneath the surface. He was a little less affectionate lately, always too tired to make plans. His phone became his new best friend. But love makes you blind. And honestly, I was too busy picking outfits and booking Airbnbs to notice he was picking apart our relationship, piece by piece in his mind. I thought Italy was going to bring us even closer, that this trip was going to be a fresh start. I had no idea it was going to be our ending. The morning of our flight, I woke up buzzing with excitement. I made us both breakfast, printed out the itinerary, double-checked the passports. Liam seemed distracted, but I figured it was nerves. At the airport, we joked around in the security line like normal. I thought we were fine. I thought we were solid. I was so wrong. We were standing near the departure gate when it happened. The moment that rewired everything I thought I knew about love. Liam kept checking his phone, pacing a little. I thought maybe he was just anxious about flying. He always got weird before flights. I smiled at him, trying to lighten the mood. In a few hours we'll be eating gelato by the Colosseum. Can you believe it? That's when he stopped pacing. He looked at me with this strange, empty expression. Like I wasn't even someone he recognized anymore. "We need to talk," he said. I laughed awkwardly. "Now? We're literally about to board." He shoved his hands into the pockets of his hoodie. "I don't think I should go." I blinked at him, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. "Are you serious right now?" I whispered, glancing around. People were moving around us, couples holding hands, kids whining about snacks. The world didn't pause for heartbreak, apparently. "I've been thinking about this for a while," Liam said, not even meeting my eyes. "I'm just bored, okay? Feel stuck. I think we need a break." "Bored?" He said it so casually, like he was talking about changing his Spotify playlist. My throat closed up. "You're dumping me. At the airport. Before our dream trip." He shrugged like he wasn't destroying me. "It's better now than in Italy. At least this way you can still go. Maybe figure some things out for yourself too." I should have screamed, cried, thrown something. But all I could do was stare at him, my heart pounding so hard I thought people could hear it. He gave me this half-hearted pat on the shoulder, the way you might console someone you barely knew, and then turned and walked away. I watched him disappear into the crowd until I couldn't see the back of his gray hoodie anymore. It felt surreal, like I'd fallen out of my own body and was watching it happen from the ceiling. I stood there frozen for I don't even know how long. People bumped past me with their suitcases. Boarding calls echoed through the terminal. Finally, a flight attendant walked up to me. "Ma'am? Final boarding for Rome. Are you coming?" I looked down at the ticket clutched in my shaking hand. Rome. Part of me wanted to crumple to the floor. Part of me wanted to run after him, demand an explanation, beg for something, anything that made sense. But a tiny, stubborn voice inside whispered, "Go. Go without him. Go because you deserve to see the world, even if he doesn't want to see it with you. Go because your life is not over just because he's too small for it." I wiped my face with my sleeve. I didn't even realize I'd started crying, and nodded at the attendant. "I'm coming." I boarded that plane alone. I sat by the window, curled up in my seat, pretending to be asleep so no one would talk to me. Somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, as the plane hummed through the clouds, I made myself a silent promise. I will not let him be the reason this story is a tragedy. The first few hours after I landed in Rome were a blur. I stumbled through customs, barely registered the cab ride to my hotel, and when the old iron gate creaked shut behind me, I dropped my suitcase and just sat. The hotel was small and beautiful, tucked away down a narrow street lined with crumbling brick walls and flower boxes overflowing with bright red geraniums. Liam and I had picked it together online. Correction, I had picked it, and he'd nodded along while scrolling Instagram. I had to stop thinking about him like that. I wasn't ready yet, but I had to start. The room smelled faintly of lemon and old wood. It had a tiny balcony overlooking the rooftops. I sat on the bed, exhausted, hollowed out, staring at my phone. Nothing. No texts. No calls. Just silence from the boy who said he loved me a month ago. I could have curled up there and lost the whole trip to sadness. But instead, and I still don't know where this spark inside me came from, I stood up, washed my face, put on the prettiest dress I had packed, and told myself, you are in Rome. You are not wasting this. I tied up my hair, slipped on some sandals, and ventured out into the evening. Rome was alive. Not the touristy postcard version, the real one. Street musicians played violins on the corners. Scooters zipped past ancient stone buildings. The air smelled like baking bread and something sweet I couldn't place. The city didn't care that my heart was cracked in half. The city was just doing its thing, existing. I wandered aimlessly, letting the city pull me along. I found myself near a tiny piazza where tables spilled out into the street under strings of glowing fairy lights. A waitress called out in broken English, "Signorina, you want a table?" Before I could overthink it, I said yes. It was only once I sat down and ordered a glass of wine, yes, I know, questionable judgment, but I needed it, that I realized. This was the first time I'd ever eaten alone at a restaurant. I almost laughed at the absurdity. 30 hours ago you thought you were about to have the most romantic week of your life, I thought. Now you're drinking alone in a country where you don't even speak the language. But then something shifted. Instead of feeling pathetic, I felt powerful. There I was. Alone. Unwanted. Unplanned. And still I was living. I must have been smiling to myself like a crazy person because a voice interrupted my thoughts. Is this seat taken? I looked up. And there he was. Tall, sun-kissed, a little scruffy in the way that European men somehow make look effortless. His eyes were this warm brown, like melted chocolate, and when he smiled, it wasn't a line rehearsed for Instagram, it was real, crinkling up at the corners. I blinked at him. No. I mean, yes, wait, no. It's free. He laughed. Perfect, he said, sliding into the chair. I'm Luca. I don't know what it was, jet lag, heartbreak, wine, fate, but I found myself smiling back. I'm Emma. He switched into flawless English after hearing my accent, telling me he was a painter, like an actual painter, not just the type who doodled on a tablet during meetings. He lived nearby and came to this piazza when he needed inspiration. We talked for hours. About everything and nothing. About Rome. About the art he loved. About places I needed to see while I was here. About the strange courage it took just to survive heartbreak sometimes. At one point, I told him, without meaning to, that I was supposed to be here with someone else. He nodded thoughtfully, not pushing for details. Then he said, maybe you are exactly where you're meant to be. Maybe you just needed to meet yourself here. I could have cried all over again, but this time not from sadness. From something new. Hope. When I finally walked back to my hotel, the streets were empty and golden under the streetlights. I felt lighter. Not healed, not yet, but cracked open enough to believe healing was possible. I collapsed into bed without even checking my phone. For the first time in what felt like forever, I slept dreamlessly. And somewhere, deep in my bones, I knew. This was the beginning of something, not the end. The sunlight streaming through the curtains the next morning was so warm and soft that for a moment, I forgot. Forgot about the airport. Forgot about Liam. Forgot about everything that wasn't Rome and cobblestones and the lingering sound of Luca's laugh. I stretched lazily, feeling this unfamiliar lightness in my chest, and reached for my phone on the nightstand. That's when reality came crashing back. 17 missed calls. And at least a dozen texts. All from him. Liam. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked over the little water glass the hotel had left by my bed. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the notifications. Emma, please call me. I messed up. I can explain. Please pick up. I didn't mean it like that. I still love you. I stared at the screen, heart pounding in my ears. Was this real? Was he seriously trying to undo it all now that I was 4,000 miles away and had spent the night having the first real conversation I'd had in months? I set the phone down carefully on the nightstand like it might explode. Outside, the bells from a nearby church tower started ringing loud and clear and stubborn. The whole city seemed to be telling me, don't go backward. But God, part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to cling to the familiar, even if it was the same familiar that had stood at the airport gate and decided I wasn't enough. I thought about all the times I'd excused his distance. The way I accepted less because I was scared of being alone. The way I mistook comfort for love. And then I thought about last night. Laughing under the fairy lights. Feeling seen, really seen for the first time in so long. I didn't know what Luca would be to me, maybe just a beautiful night in a beautiful city. But even if it ended there, it had already given me something Liam never did. The reminder that I was allowed to want more. More love. More wonder. More life. My phone buzzed again in my hand, another call. I hit decline and placed the phone face down. Then I stood up, tied my hair into a messy bun, and grabbed my crossbody bag. I wasn't going to waste my precious Roman morning tangled in Liam's regrets. I wasn't going to be the girl crying in her hotel room while the whole city danced outside. I scribbled a quick note to myself on the hotel's complimentary stationery. Today belongs to me. And with that I stepped out into the golden light. The air smelled like fresh bread and adventure. I had no plan. No map. No boyfriend weighing me down. Only Rome, my open heart, and whatever came next. The streets of Rome were already buzzing by the time I wandered out into them. Vendors setting up little stands of postcards and jewelry, old men sipping espresso from tiny porcelain cups, kids chasing pigeons through the piazzas. The city wasn't waiting for me to catch up, it was moving, living, breathing, and somehow I found myself doing the same. I didn't check a map. Didn't care about tourist spots or must-see landmarks. I just walked. Past ancient walls draped in ivy. Past crumbling fountains with coins shimmering at the bottom. Past lives that had nothing to do with me or the boy who didn't love me enough to stay. At some point, I found myself near the Tiber River. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and I leaned against the bridge railing, letting the breeze tangle my hair. It was peaceful. Almost eerily so, considering that just 24 hours ago, my world had felt like it was ending. I don't know how long I stood there before I heard a familiar voice behind me. Emma. I turned around. And there he was, Luca. Holding a canvas under one arm, paint smudged across his fingers like he had just stepped out of a dream. He smiled, not the cocky, staged smile so many guys wear like a mask, but one that crinkled at the corners of his eyes, like he was genuinely happy to see me. I was hoping I'd run into you again, he said. I laughed, a real laugh that surprised me with how easy it felt. Rome's big, I said. What are the odds? He shrugged. Maybe the city's small when it needs to be. We ended up walking together, weaving through alleyways and little hidden corners of the city that I never would have found on my own. He showed me a courtyard filled with orange trees. A bookstore so tiny you had to turn sideways to move through the shelves. A bakery where the owner gave us free biscotti just because Luca greeted her in rapid, affectionate Italian. It wasn't a date. It wasn't not a date. It was something softer, more precious. Two people sharing a day, nothing owed, nothing promised. We sat on the steps of a sun-warmed fountain eating the biscotti, and for the first time I told him the truth. About the trip. The breakup. The airport scene that still played in my mind when I wasn't careful. He listened, really listened without interrupting or offering solutions. When I finished, there was a long, comfortable pause. Then he said, you know, sometimes things break because they were too small to hold you in the first place. I looked at him, at the way the sunlight caught in his messy hair, and felt something shift inside me. It wasn't love. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something just as sacred, possibility. Luca offered to walk me back to my hotel. At the door he hesitated, then asked, would you maybe want to come to my art show tomorrow night? Nothing fancy. Just a few paintings and probably some very bad wine. I smiled so wide it hurt. I'd love to. He kissed my cheek, a soft, old-fashioned kind of kiss, and then disappeared down the street, whistling a tune I didn't recognize. I stood there for a long time after he left, heart pounding, the evening air cool against my skin. Inside my room, my phone blinked with more missed calls, more desperate texts from Liam. But I didn't touch it. Didn't even look at it. Instead, I opened the balcony doors wide, breathed in the Roman night, and thought. Maybe I didn't lose anything at the airport after all. Maybe I was finally finding myself. The next morning I woke up early. No alarm, no buzzing phone, no pounding heart, just sunlight spilling across the terracotta tiles and the faint sounds of a city waking up outside. I sat up slowly, savoring the quiet. No rush. No one else to answer to. It was just me. But the second I glanced at the nightstand, the blinking notification on my phone pulled me back to reality. More missed calls. More texts. Emma, please. Call me. I made a mistake. I need to talk to you. We can fix this. Please don't shut me out. A part of me, the old version of me, wanted to respond immediately, to pick up the phone, to hear the explanations and the apologies and the excuses. But the newer part of me, the girl who had wandered Rome alone and found herself laughing again with a stranger, knew better. Still, he deserved a response. Not because he earned it, but because I deserved closure on my own terms. So I took a deep breath, opened a blank message and typed. You made your choice when you walked away at the airport. You don't get to undo it because you're lonely now. I'm not the same girl you left behind. I hovered over the send button for a moment, then added one last line. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it isn't me anymore. And then I hit send. Blocked his number. Turned off my phone. It felt powerful. Not angry. Not vindictive. Just free. I slipped on a dress, a soft, flowy one I had almost not packed because Liam once said it made me look too girly. Funny how the things we abandon for love are often the pieces of ourselves we need the most. Downstairs, the hotel lobby was buzzing with other travelers, but I barely noticed them. I had a date with myself first, a little cafe Luca had pointed out the day before. I sat outside, sipping a cappuccino that was so good it made me want to cry, writing in a tiny journal I bought at a street stall. I wrote about everything: the airport, the tears, the loneliness, the bravery I didn't know I had. It poured out of me like a dam breaking. I wrote about Liam. About Luca. About Rome. About me. Halfway through my second cup of coffee, the cafe door swung open and there he was. Not Liam. Luca. He smiled when he saw me, looking a little shy, like he wasn't sure if he'd be welcome. I waved him over. He sat down across from me, setting a little bouquet of wildflowers on the table. For you, he said simply. No pressure. No expectations. Just a gesture. I pressed the flowers to my nose and smiled. Maybe it was the cappuccino. Maybe it was the Roman sunlight. Maybe it was finally realizing I didn't need to be anyone's second choice. But right there in that tiny cafe with the crumbling brick walls and the smell of coffee and flowers all around me, I realized. I wasn't broken. I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't a sad girl left at an airport. I was a girl in Rome, writing her own story, choosing herself for once over the boy who couldn't see her worth. And it felt like the most beautiful beginning. The art show wasn't in some grand, gilded gallery like I imagined. It was held in a little courtyard tucked between two buildings, the stone walls cracked and covered in vines, lanterns strung across like 1,000 little stars had been caught in midair. It wasn't perfect. It was alive. It was real. Kind of like me. Luca's paintings were raw and colorful, messy in the way that made you want to stare at them for hours. Scenes of Rome, yes, sunlit alleys and crumbling ruins, but also paintings of people caught mid-laugh, lovers arguing in the rain, a child chasing a red balloon. They weren't about perfection. They were about living. I wandered through the little exhibit with a glass of cheap wine in hand, feeling weightless. No heavy heart dragging me down. No ghost of Liam whispering in my ear that I wasn't enough. At the far end of the courtyard, tucked between two larger canvases, was a small painting. It wasn't grand or flashy. It was just simple. A girl sitting alone at a cafe table. A cappuccino in front of her. A journal open, pen in hand. Sunlight spilling across her back. It took me a second to realize it was me. I turned around and there was Luca standing a few feet away, hands stuffed nervously into his pockets. When our eyes met, he gave a small, almost sheepish smile. I hope you don't mind, he said. You just looked so at peace yesterday. I had to capture it. I blinked fast, willing away the sudden sting of tears. Not the broken kind. The beautiful, overwhelming kind. No one's ever painted me before, I said, laughing a little at how ridiculous it sounded. He stepped closer, voice low. I didn't paint you to keep you. I just wanted to remember that moment. You in your own world, completely whole by yourself. Completely whole. I rolled those words around in my mind like a pearl. Me. Whole. Later that night, after most of the guests had trickled away and the lantern swayed in the warm Roman breeze, Luca asked if I wanted to take a walk. No pressure. No expectations. Just a walk. We wandered through the streets, Rome glowing gold around us, and talked about everything: the silly, the serious, the scared parts we didn't show most people. He didn't ask me to stay. He didn't promise me a future. And that made me trust him even more. At the Trevi fountain, under the silver hush of falling water, he handed me a coin. Make a wish, he said. I closed my eyes. For the first time in so long, I didn't wish for love. I didn't wish for someone to come back. I didn't even wish for someone to stay. I wished for myself. For my courage. For my own heart to keep choosing me over and over, no matter what. I tossed the coin into the fountain and turned to find Luca watching me, smiling softly. Not as a savior. Not as the solution. But as someone who saw me, really saw me, just as I was. I smiled back, feeling lighter than I ever had. Not because of him. Not because of the fountain. Because I had finally stopped waiting to be chosen. Because I had finally chosen myself. And Rome, chaotic, beautiful, imperfect Rome, had been the place where I remembered how. Maybe someday I'd fall in love again. Maybe with Luca. Maybe with someone else. Maybe just with the life I was building, one brave step at a time. But for now I was enough. And that was more than enough for me.